Simon. I'm the sales manager here at Marquee 360. I actually joined Marquee 360 late last year because they were actually one of my favorite project partners when I was at Microsoft, and we worked very closely together. So it's been a great time so far, and we're super excited to talk to you about ideation today. And I'll have Mia do a quick introduction, and then I'll introduce a little more about Marquee 360, and we'll turn it over to Mia, and she'll take it from there.
Jen. Hi, everyone. My name is Mia. I'm a solutions architect at Marquee 360, so I typically help our customers throughout the project lifecycle. Thanks for joining us today.
And so a little bit about our agenda. We'll just do some quick introductions here, and then I'll give you, which we just did. So then we'll do a little bit more about Marquee 360, and then I'll turn it over for project intake. So Marquee 360 has actually been up for Partner of the Year for a number of years in a row now. We partner very closely with Microsoft on all things project and portfolio management, working with Planner and the Power Platform in enhancing Planner Basic to Planner Premium, and then giving you all of the really great experience on the Microsoft platform. And we were founded over 20 years ago by Microsoft veterans, much like myself. So they have been in this space for a very long time. Our whole team is actually extremely skilled individuals with this type of work. So we really love the fact that we can help our customers ideate and think about what they're doing on their own journey. And our focus areas, much like everybody in this space right now, we're really helping our customers with innovation, because this is an opportunity to really think about how you use your work and how you do it differently, and how you can extend the platform to really make your whole entire team more efficient, get more data, and move faster. And with that, we really pride ourselves on our customer success. We are here for the customer. We're not going to try to throw something down your throat. We really want to help you understand what your journey is, and then help you through that journey. And then in the end, we can actually support you as well. So with this, with all of our tools here at Marquee 360, there's implementation costs and some support costs, but we do not charge licensing on top of Microsoft. All right, and with that short introduction, I will turn this over to Mia. I am going to go off camera, but I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to just raise your hand so you can come off mute, or I can answer them in the chat. Thank you very much. Mia?
Thank you. All right, so our topic today is project intake. What we're going to do today is take a look at the project intake process that comes with PPM 360 out of the box. Intake is so important because not only is it the first step of our project lifecycle, and where we really start to capture ideas from a variety of people about new projects, but what we do here is we use our intake app to provide a standardized way of capturing that data. We can also capture prioritization, and with those priority scores, we get to compare those requests. Our reports are also incorporated. So all the information that we're capturing across all the different requests are going to show up in our reports as well. So what we are going to look at today is our full intake process. We'll see how intake requests are created, updated, how we have approval workflows that will create projects for us, and how we can use the information that we're capturing during the intake process throughout the project lifecycle. So with that, we'll jump into our demo. I'm going to bring up the browser here, where I'm signed into the homepage of PPM 360. Some of you may be familiar with our products already, and I just want to still mention that PPM 360 is our full solution for project and portfolio management. It is pre-configured, so it's very quick and easy to deploy. It's also highly customizable. One of the things that we'll note here is that it's also modular. So it has these different parts, and you can choose if you're going to use the full suite or if you're going to use parts of it. So as we look across our menu here, we'll see that we've got the intake portal where we collect the project requests, our focus today. That is something that you could use as a separate module or part of our entire suite. We also have different modules like timesheets, projects that go along with portfolios and programs, resources, and also, of course, reports, which we'll take a look at today as well. So from the homepage of PPM 360, I'm going to navigate over to the project requests. And this is going to open up our intake portal. This is where we're going to collect all of those requests that people make for new projects. One of the things that we should really focus on today is that there is a large amount of customization that can be done here. What I'm going to do first is walk you through the out-of-the-box solution. So if you were to, call us today and we talk about what you need and you decided you want the out-of-the-box solution, this is what we would deploy for you, next week. We do also gather requirements at the beginning of each engagement. So if you wanted a more custom version, that's a possibility too. So we'll look at the out-of-the-box version. I'll talk through what we include, and then we can also talk about what customizations are possible. So here in the intake portal, we're seeing the existing requests. We've got quite a long list here. And with each of these requests, just at a glance, we get to see where they are in the process. So we track items as the request is created. It may be submitted or saved as a draft. After it's submitted, it'll get sent out for approval. We can see that we've got these top two that are pending approval. Those are drafts that I've created for us today. But then also when it comes to the approval, these could be approved, more information could be needed, it could be rejected. And then once something is approved, it'll create the project for us. So these steps summarize our process of capturing the intake request, submitting it through that approval process, which ends with having a project created. Looking at the very top here in this menu, there are some very simple options to use. We can use the portal to go back to the PPM 360 homepage. New, of course, is going to open up a new request for us. We can refresh at any time. If we've been sitting on this page for a while and we want to get the updated statuses, the refresh is right here. And then also there's a search option. So when we have a longer list like what you see here, you can tell I've got the scroll bar here, and there are quite a lot of requests that are in here. The search becomes really helpful if we're looking something that already exists. So one thing that's great about the search is that it is an inclusive search. As long as I have any part of a request name, right, then the matching options will show over here. That becomes really helpful because a lot of times when people name a request or name a project, it might be a little bit different than what we would name it. So if we just go ahead and have this search where we can search for any part of that request name, that really helps us to make sure we're getting the results we need. You can also layer the search, right? So you might want to search by the creation date or a department. And then you'll start to have your list, more and more refined. So it's easy to find things in here. We can reset this at any time to get the full list, and then we can also, choose if we're looking at that or not. One other nice thing about the gallery is that you can use this to view high-level information about each request. So I'm going to click here. And now we'll see that this request includes an attachment, right? We can click on that to view the attachment. But then also we've chosen some key data to display here in this preview. When we gather requirements, we'll talk about what fields you want to see on your request form, and then also which of those fields should show in this high-level preview. But this is a good idea for anyone looking through these to get an idea of what this request is about. Maybe it prevents us from entering in a duplicate request or something like that. So this can be really helpful. For now, you can see that I've saved this as a draft. We're going to go ahead and we're going to open up that draft and start to look at what our intake request looks like. So I'm going to click here and also choose to edit. Just a really quick orientation. It's very intuitive and easy to figure out how everything is set up. There are pages listed here on the left, and then each page is going to have different fields. So again, we're looking at the out-of-the-box version right now, but we may also have, customizations that are made that would change these from pages on the left side to tabs that show along the top. Any one of those are possible. As we look at this, we'll see the request information page where we are now. That's where we enter in information about the request. So if we want to describe what we're requesting, this is where we'll put those details. Some of this can be auto-populated. So when I first opened up the new request, it recognized that it was me and put my name in here. It also recognized our request date and auto-filled that. Sometimes based on what you capture in Active Directory and how accurate that information is, we might fill in a department or also someone's supervisor. It all depends on what you need to see. We're also capturing very simply the project name or the request name here. There's a description of what we're requesting. And then part of what we'll see here is that there is a series of informational fields that'll help both the approver to decide whether this should become a project or not, and also guide the requester to enter in information that'll help with that process. So we are always keeping in mind that this may be the first step of many, right? One of the things that can happen here is that we might have different project types. And based on those different project types, we might want to select a different type of request. So just in this dropdown, I'll give you an idea of what those project types or request types could look like. First, you'll see that there is Agile DevOps, right? A lot of times we do have teams that are working on Agile projects, and Agile products are supported in Microsoft Planner, which is fantastic. But we also do integrations with ADL, with Jira, and if there's something that we want to integrate with and have a particular schedule to go along with that, and maybe as part of the integration, we have this request approved and it creates a project in Jira or ADL, this project type selection here can help us to get that process started. You'll also note that here we've got a variety of different request types. Okay, so we've got a facilities project, an IT, an individual, a marketing campaign, and these may all have different needs. They may have different needs on the intake form. So as we select one of these, it may shift the fields or pages that we see on the intake form. It also may be that when we get to the project area, we're going to need a different workflow or a different project schedule template applied. So these choices that we're making as early as this intake process can help us with more of that downstream setup that'll help our PMs have a project that fits their need. We can have different fields that are required as well. And that way we make sure that we're requiring the fields that the approver needs to make an informed decision. And then we might decide that there are some other fields that are not critical, but are nice to know at this stage. So in this example, the location and the project department are like that. So this is a Power App, right? And that allows us to do quite a bit. It allows us to have conditional fields, and it allows us to use the information that we're capturing here for those downstream processes. Part of what we're capturing here for the request information also is about the problem that we're looking to solve and what value this brings to us as an organization. So we'll go to the next page. It's the project details, and this is where we'll put in more information about what that project would actually look like if we were to move forward. So here we have our proposed dates. We've got our proposed budget. We've got our benefits, which could be qualitative or quantitative or both. And then here, if we know who the project manager is, this list is looking up to Active Directory, so we can go ahead and type in anyone's name there and have that selected. Notice that when this was blank, my submit button was not there, right? I'll take this out so we can take a look. So that's just because this is required. So it's making sure that we can't submit this without all of the required information in there. I'm going to go ahead and add my name back in here. We'll see the submit button light up. One of the things to note here is that the information we're capturing will also carry over into the project. So we'll define which fields we want to carry over into the project, and the proposed start and end and go live. These can give us a comparison point later on to know if we're sticking with what we thought it would be. That could be a lesson learned for the future also, to know that we might need more time for certain items. So we've got information about the request in general. We've captured some details that will be more related to the project. And the next page here is for scoring. With these intake requests, if we're starting to collect these requests from a variety of people, it helps to be able to compare the requests with each other. So what we're doing here is we're calculating a priority score. Now, this is our demo environment that we're showing, so it is calculated very simply. What we have here are just different ratings with a numerical value, and then we add those up to complete the score. So what we'll see is that these headers here, these are all of our business drivers. These are the items that we are focusing on as an organization. And for each one of those, we'll rate how this particular request aligns with that driver. So when it comes to expanding into new markets and segments, we can define that here. It's important that these are, somewhat descriptive. If we just have, good, bad, something very general, then, we tend not to get as accurate of a score. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and select a score here. We'll see our priority score is updated. Now, it's very simple in our demo environment to just have the number here and add these up. But in real life, a lot of times what we will do is apply different weights here. Sometimes we'll have a score also that's filled out by the requester. But then as the approver starts to look at this and review it, they might add in a different score, right? Those are two different perspectives. And being able to capture those is one of the things that we can do here to make sure that we're accurately capturing all the data related to this request. The next thing that we'll see here, the last page, is for the attachments. Sometimes, no matter what fields we have here, there might be some additional information that's helpful. Sometimes it's particular to a specific request. So if there's a project that we've done that's similar to this, and we want to go ahead and attach information about that project, maybe an export of that project schedule so we get an idea of what the timeline looked like, or maybe some of the documents that we put together during that project, we can attach those files here. These files, just like some of the other fields we talked about, can also carry over into the project once the project is created. So these can be useful beyond just this intake portion of things. We can always save this as a draft. So if we're in the middle of this and we need to run off to a meeting, or if we get a phone call or an IM that we need to address right away, we can always save it as a draft and then come back to it later. And then when we're ready and we have everything filled out, we can go ahead and submit. So we've successfully submitted this request. As we look back at our intake portal, we'll see that our request status is updated. We were in draft before, now we're submitted. And what's going to happen now is that we're starting to move into that approval process. Okay, so with the approval process, it can be set up any way that you like. We have a very simple approvals setup that typically matches a lot of our customers out of the box. And what that does is it will send a series of notifications and requests for approval. I'm going to share my email inbox with you. I'm going to grab that. So the first email that comes out, and keep in mind as we walk through these, that I'm wearing two hats today. I'm the requester who submitted the request, but then I'm also set up as the approver for today. So here is the first notification that gets sent out. As the requester, I'm given a link back to the request that I made, and then also just an update that this was successfully submitted, and then I'll be notified when the approval status changes. The other email that we'll see here is what I get as the approver. So this is sharing with me a link back to that request so that I can fully review it. It's also showing some of the high-level data from the request in the email here. So already just looking at this, I have an idea of what this is. And then I have some approval options here as well. Now, Outlook we use, of course, because a lot of our customers are spending quite a bit of time in Outlook. And then you'll see the little pop-up and things as you get emails. The other place that we do share these requests for approval or in Microsoft Teams. Working and collaborating with Microsoft Teams is really important for us. Just as an example, you'll see that I have Teams open here, and the team that we're looking at here is actually a project that was created from intake, right? So some of this is pre-filled based on the intake values that we just saw, but really what I want to focus on in Teams right now is in the activity section. What we'll see here is another notification that there's something that's ready for me to review for approval. So just like we saw in the email, we see high-level information. There's the link to go and view the full request. And then here we have a couple of options. We could reassign this if this came to us and that needs to start going somewhere else. We can add in comments, and then of course we can choose our response. One thing that I want to make absolutely clear is that when we see things in more than one place, right? We saw the email with this information, and now we see this in Teams. We don't need to respond in both places. The Approvals app is what's really behind the scenes for all of these. So when we update one of these, we're updating that Approvals section, and that's enough, okay? So I'm going to move Teams aside. And then through here, I'm going to go ahead and approve. Whether I click on approve, reject, need more information, or on hold, it's going to bring up a comments box. For approved, it's pretty straightforward, right? We are happy with what we're seeing here and we're ready to create a project. But for rejecting, needing more information, and placing something on hold, it is really helpful to add a comment. And the comment actually gets sent back to the requester. So if we're rejecting this, it's great to add in a comment so that the requester knows why it was rejected. Maybe that there was already a similar request submitted and we already are moving ahead with that. So we don't need to do two projects that are the same. That cuts back on somebody seeing that it was rejected and maybe changing the wrong thing and then resubmitting that again. With requesting more information also, if there was something that we wish the requester had added, maybe an additional attachment or more data in some of those multi-line text fields, we can go ahead and add that as a comment here. And that way the requester knows exactly what we're looking for from them. All right, so from here, we're going to approve. I'm going to go ahead and submit. So that was our simple approval process that comes out of the box. I do want to make sure that we also touch on some of the variations that could be included. So sometimes, sending it to one person to approve is great, but there may be a group of people that need to approve. We typically do recommend that we don't just have one person approving because that person might need to go on vacation or they might need a sick day. So what we can do is set up a group of approvers, and then the request for approval gets sent to that group. With those groups, we can also set it up so that maybe one person in that group needs to approve for it to move forward. Maybe also it needs to be the majority of people in that group to make sure that we really have everybody on the same page. Those are all rules that we can set up in Power Automate. So using that, we can detail out so much. We can put in here what should show up in the emails. We can put in what the approver's options should be. And then every action that's taken, we can build into that Power Automate flow. So it is tremendously flexible. Part of this also is going to create a project for us, right? So as part of this flow, when we approve, it'll create the project for us. It'll carry over some of the information from the intake request into the project. It'll also send out notifications if we'd like. So after I approved this, notice that the format here changed. That's really helpful if we do have a group of approvers. So that way, if Jen and I are both notified when there's something to approve, but only one of us has to approve for the project to get created, both Jen and I would both see this format. So looking at this, we know that this is already taken care of. We don't need to spend the time to look at the request and review it, unless of course we want to. I'm going to go to this message in my inbox, which I'm receiving as the requester. This is letting me know that this was, the project will be created. There's a link to the request, And of course, that comment is timestamped here. We could have a group of people that are reviewing this, so there might be multiple comments. So it's nice to be able to see the name there. And we've got one more email as well. Here we can see that as I was talking, this project is already created. So here it's letting me know that I've added to this project. It's letting me know also that I'm assigned as the project manager. So those are the three kind of roles I'm playing: the requester, the approver, and also the manager of the new project. So that's why I'm getting multiple emails. All right, and then the text in these emails, all of that is configurable as well, right? That's part of what we talk about with the requirements gathering, but the way it is here is also pretty straightforward. All right, so we'll move this aside and I'll refresh here. So now that we have approved this, we'll be able to see that there's a link that was added here. I have this other version down here just as a comparison, right? Because this is a draft, I can delete this at any time. As the requester, I have this ability, right? And then for this one that we just worked on, we'll see that the status is updated to show that the project is created. This link will take us directly to that project. And what we'll be able to see is that the project is created in the main portal area. So I'm going to go back over to our first tab where we saw PPM 360. Notice that there are some notifications that are built in here. So it's letting me know that I'm assigned to this new team. And under plans here, this is where we'll be able to see a list of all of our different plans. There are different views here, so we can use these to start to view those different projects. So in real life, when I'm assigned to a new project, I know that I can come to the My Active Plans view and see that project here. I'm going to open this not to show you the full project lifecycle. We do have a lot of other videos related to that. And if you visit our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see a lot of those. We can also always set up a demo to show you more of the project portion of things. But I do want to open this project just so that we can take a quick look and see some of the information that's carried over. So a lot of this is filled in already. We'll see that a template was applied. So we already do have a schedule template in place. Our planned start and finish dates are here. Our finish date's actually calculated based on the template that was applied. So we already do have a fair amount of tasks that'll take us out for the next couple of months. As we start to look through some of the different tabs, we'll see more of the information from our request is captured and brought over into the project for us. So we do have a nice head start. Our goal overall with everything that we do is to make life easier for every person on your team. In this case, we're giving the project manager a bit of a head start. In this case also, I do want to make sure that you're aware that we're not stuck with what's in here. If the project manager needs to edit this, they need to delete what was here before and add new comments or add comments to what's already here. These are fully open and they have the ability to go ahead and update those. Oops. So we've got tasks here too. This is essentially planner, but this is what schedule template was selected on that request form to get us started out with these tasks ready to go. So from here, we can go ahead and start to make our assignments. We can add other people to the team as well and start to assign them and get moving with this project pretty quickly. So very simple to enter in the request and get started. I'm going to go back over to our tab with the requests for a moment because there are a couple of other things that I just want to point out. We talked earlier about us using or looking at the out-of-the-box version of this first. Now I want to revisit this a little bit and talk about some of the modifications that are popular with our customers. I'll start off with the most obvious one, and that is the whole color scheme that's updated here. So this is, again, our out-of-the-box version. When we deploy this, we do have an admin function for an admin on your team where there are some preset color schemes that can be updated and applied here. What we typically do also with every implementation is we do ask for, your official company themes and then apply those to the intake along with your logo so that this is personalized and that the first time people come here, that it is something that they recognize and feel familiar and comfortable with. We also would definitely talk with you about what data you want to capture, what you want to display here, and what your steps will be for approval. This is kind of the most basic approval we have, right? Where the request is submitted, it gets sent to an approver or a group of approvers, and then if it's approved, the project gets created. A lot of times it is a little more complicated. We might have one group that's going to go ahead and review this request, right? And then maybe they'll add in some information, and then when they're satisfied, they'll submit it for the approval. So those are all things that we can accommodate in here, these different stages to the approval and the different, kind of themes and everything that we have here. I'm going to open up this draft so we can take another look at some of the possibilities here. And if you have any questions about what's possible, please feel free to add those into the chat. So as we're looking through here, the way that we track things like the status, even the columns and fields that we see here, these could all be conditional. So when we're choosing a request type, if we're going to choose, that this is an individual project, we may not need the same amount of data on the intake form. It is possible to set this up so that based on the type of request or based on the department, we're showing a completely different set of data fields on the form. So those are all different things. Sometimes we have different groups. Some groups are going to be, doing IT projects. Some groups might be more new product development. And other groups might be, controlling operations or marketing. So those might all have different needs. This same form can shift based on what's selected in here to capture the information that is specific to the request type and or the department. One of the things that's also really important when we're capturing all of this is the scoring. So here we showed one type of scoring, but keep in mind that because the scores are so important, sometimes what we'll do is we'll show the scores here. We might have, more than one set of scores, as I mentioned earlier, and these scores can be used throughout this project lifecycle, right? When we have the score that we're calculating here, we do carry that over into the project. Sometimes that's used as the initial prioritization, and then based on our executive team, we might want to reprioritize these and add another score. So there are all of these different options here, even the different pages, right? These might have different names. Oftentimes they do, all with different fields on them. So there are different ways that we can capture all of that. Another important part of the intake process that we haven't looked at yet are the reports, right? Reports are set up with our out-of-the-box solution to fit each part of the project lifecycle. I will show here that from our main homepage, there is a link to the reports here. I do already have that open as a tab. And what we'll see here is that there's a series of reports that come with our out-of-the-box solution. What I'm going to focus on today, though, is the request dashboard, because this is all focused on the intake requests. So there are different ways that we can use a dashboard like this. The most important thing to know is that, this is a great starting point, but what we need to look at with each customer here is what information is most important for them to report on when it comes to these, and what goals do you have when it comes to looking at the report. For this, we can start to tell, who's sponsoring these projects. Maybe we want to look at certain items that will be sponsored by a specific person, right? And then that way we can look at what we're going to move forward with, right? We could also use the request by status to see which requests need attention. In this case, if we're going to look at what was submitted but hasn't actually been approved or rejected or acted on at all, what we can do is we can filter these and know that we need to follow up with the following people here about these requests to make sure that they do get the attention that they need. Right? So these are some of the ways that we can use the reports. One other way that we use this report is with the priority score, right? So with the priority score, if we're looking at these before we act on these and make the decisions, we may want to look at what's submitted and then see with the priority scores, which ones have the highest priority, right? And that way we're making sure that we're moving forward with the requests that match our business needs the most. So with this, the priority score that we're capturing does roll up into the report, which is very helpful. We can also see our proposed budget, so we have an idea financially of where things stand before we make a decision on whether we move forward with the project or not. And these all can be swapped out, right? One of the things that's really good to know about PPM 360, but also, each part, each individual module that we have, is that once we deploy it, it is deployed in your environment with an account that you have full access to. So if, we deploy the report like this, and 6 months down the line, you think it would be great to be able to see which ones have become a project and how far along they are, or some other data should be incorporated in here, you'll have the access that you need to make those updates to the reports yourself. If you choose to have us to update it, we are more than happy to do that. We have support plans that allow us to go ahead and support you with those types of updates. But the important part is that you get to make that decision for yourself and your team. When we're looking at these requests here and thinking about which ones to move forward with, there are some other reports that help as well. There's a timeline, so we get to look at where things are. And if we're looking to start something, just to save us time and not change the dates, let's say we're looking to start something at the beginning of this year, right? What we can do is use this to really quickly see who is available as a project manager. So maybe when the requests get submitted, we have reviewers that are going to come in here, look at the timeline to see who the PM should be, make sure that our resources are available, there are reports for that as well, and then really make sure that before we approve this or as we're approving it, that we are setting ourselves up to have a successful project with the right resources assigned, the right project manager available. All of that information can come from these different reports. So everything, could work together in a really nice way. There is one more thing I want to show related to priority scores. So we're capturing the priority scores on the intake form. And I mentioned that, those roll up into the reports as well. Sometimes we do have a separate set of scoring that we do for projects. As we're making the decision about which requests should become projects, we may have one set of priorities, but as we're working, sometimes those priorities shift. Maybe our executive team will tell us that we need to shift a little bit and focus on a different set of projects. So there is a view that we've also built in here. It's called prioritization summary. And this could look different, but it's all based on what your needs are. What this will do is it'll take the score, that original prioritization score. Sometimes this is tied with a ranking or a priority and urgency value here. And then we can add an executive ranking too. So if part of that decision making is the reports, we can use the reports for that. But also a lot of the data that we show in the reports, we can show in a view like this. So we can bring up the budget and benefits to help make decisions. The views that are set up in Power Apps could also be editable. So what we can do here is if this needs to be in, level 2, we can go ahead and type that in here and reorder these and always have a view. This information can also show in reports as well, right? So that helps us to make sure that we are always keeping the projects with the highest priority in our immediate gaze so that we're able to focus on those projects. All right, I'm going to take us back over to the intake form. And I just want to open things up and see if anybody has any questions or any concerns. You can reach out to us anytime if you have any thoughts or concerns after that. Remember that we do have our full app, PPM 360, which we've seen some of today. It is easy to navigate. It is modular, so it has these different parts like the intake we saw earlier. Also the reports, those could all work together as one. They also could work with other tools that you're using. So we can connect Power BI reports to other applications, the same with intake, right? Also the same with PPM 360, like I mentioned earlier, right? We might interact or integrate with Jira or Azure DevOps or another tool for Azure project or Agile projects. I'm going to leave our contact information here and invite anybody to stay on if they have questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I should come off mute. I just wanted to add super quick that Erin will be putting in a survey in the chat. So we would love it if you fill that out. We always love to have any feedback. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.